Hi guys, my name is Karita, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about a analogy or a metaphor that came to me in a meditation from my Galactic guides. And this is a follow-on to another video which I will include a link to in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, which was around some information that was channeled to me about 5 years ago around why Earth is special, and what's going on with all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so the analogy that came to me about 6 months ago now, and this is, funnily enough, it's all before all this virus stuff started. So at the time, because I've been studying acting also for like last however many years, so I think that's why they gave me a bit of a theatre metaphor for this story. So bear with me if you're not into acting or theatre, just kind of go with it. So they were telling me how you can think of humanity as a choir on the stage. Now that stage is kind of the universe, and the audience members are like other sentient beings within our universe, like other aliens and whatever else. So it's kind of like the whole theatre is the whole universe, and we are on the stage, which is kind of planet Earth, and then everyone else in the audience is the other members of our amazing dimension, and probably other dimensions too. Now what's been going on is someone's broken the fog machine a long time ago and hasn't bothered to fix it. So as we are performing on the stage, and we've been singing this note for many thousands of years, we haven't really noticed it because we're just doing our thing, because we've been trained to sing this note. We're sort of out there almost like robots, just out there singing this one single note that we've been trained to do for how many thousands of years in a fog, because someone hasn't bothered to fix the fog machine. And because of that, we can't actually see the rest of the audience. We can't see the audience at all. So we're kind of almost like performing to a cloud. It's actually really hard to even see each other. And you can reach out and you can feel your colleague who's next to you, but unless they're within like a close distance, you actually can't see them because the fog is so thick. Now what they showed me was how we are kind of waking up. And what that is doing is, so some of us are realizing that, hang on, I actually don't like singing at all. I'd rather be doing the lights, or being a stage manager, or doing hair and makeup, or costumes, or being a dancer, or being in the orchestra. We're kind of all realizing our own unique voices in that sense. And so as we're all kind of waking up, we are all kind of breaking away from the choir and the same one note. And this was perfect at the time, because at this time when this was coming through for me, there was all those protests in Hong Kong, and there was a lot of energies around the planet, around people kind of finally finding their little voice. And so I work as a healer as well, so a lot of my clients at the time were kind of coming to me in a real state of crisis, almost like having an identity crisis in terms of career or what they do, things like that. And I actually know quite a few people who have legally changed their names during that time, because they were having such a transformative process. Like they really changed themselves quite dramatically, and they realized that the song that they'd been taught to sing for their whole life didn't actually suit who they were as a person. And that was perfectly matched by this metaphor that was given to me. And so in this story, they were showing me how bit by bit we're all kind of waking up, going off to do what it is that we're passionate about. Some of us are going off to be dancers, some of us are going off to learn a musical instrument. Someone, thank God, has gone off to fix the fog machine finally. And bit by bit, even though it's kind of gets messy to start with, because you've got half the planet or half the group of the choir still singing that one note, this other group over here are starting to discover, hey, I can actually sing higher and lower. And there's another group down there learning to tune instruments. So it gets to be like crazy messy at first. But once it all settles down, we actually are able to put on a fantastic show, and we are actually able to create a whole perfect, like a musical performance where there's acting, singing, dancing, like amazing orchestral pieces and light shows, and fog machine comes on here and there, and like, it's actually a fantastic show. Now part of that message that came through to me was they were saying how as people start to learn to move, and there's a bit of a hub happening on the stage, what that movement is actually doing is lifting the fog. It's causing that fog to be pushed out. So in conjunction with someone going off and having fixed the fog machine and finally turning it off, but the movement of the choir on the stage is causing that fog to dissipate. And we are finally starting to see the audience, and this audience can actually start to see us as well. And they, as we kind of get our shit together basically and put on a great show, the audience are giving us a standing ovation. Now the audience, remember, they are kind of like all your the aliens out there, your ascended masters, all the other interdimensional beings who are kind of looking out for us, and they are there now able to see us, and they are giving us a standing ovation. Because I don't know if, unless you've sort of worked maybe in the field, like you probably don't realize that, you know, the audience isn't actually allowed to go up on stage. And that's the same thing here. So that they weren't able to come up on stage to help us. We had to help ourselves to kind of get out of the fog. And that was what was happening, especially towards the end of last year. And I think it's just a metaphor for what's kind of coming up now. And so I think what's going on now with all the corona stuff is, I think this is the part where it's all gone to shit and we're figuring out new ways of being. And after this all comes through, we'll kind of come together as a collective and put on a fantastic show. So one of the big takeaways from all of that for me was that a couple of things. So the vibration of the planet is changing, and as a result, humanity is changing, or we're being asked to change. And this relates to my earlier video, so check that out if you're interested in all that sort of stuff. But part of that too is we are being asked to grow up. It's kind of like a sense of, up until now we've been in like primary school, like learning all the things, but now we're being asked to take all of that stuff that we've learned and, you know, graduate to high school and then, you know, move on with that, because the universe generally is so far ahead of us in terms of evolution and things. We're kind of bringing up the rear end, and they want us to join them on the galactic stage. And it's not just, you know, certain people on the planet who probably are already joining them in very high levels of society, but like the rest of us as well. They want the world as a whole to be aware of them and our place within the broader cosmos and our place within the broader galactic community as well, which is very exciting. Now, one of the things about, you know, going basically from primary school to high school is that it's going to bring about a lot of restructures, and I think that's what we're going to start seeing over the coming years, partly because of this situation. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of sort of breaking down of structures before we can rebuild. And that's natural. Like, you know, whenever you sort of make a huge leap forward, the old stuff has to be let go of before you can kind of move forward properly with anything new that's coming in. And how might that choir metaphor be showing up for you in your own personal life? Well, I think, like, just judging by what was going on last year and all the people who were coming to see me, and even like my own self, I was going through the same thing. It's that little voice inside you that is trying to be heard. I think that little voice inside of us has been squashed for tens of thousands of years, not just this lifetime, but other lifetimes as well. And it's finally had enough, and it's kind of being a little kid that's having a tantrum, and it's going, you know, I can't do this anymore. I need to be heard. And so you're probably finding that you're changing, you know, eating habits, lifestyle habits. I mean, obviously, you know, huge change right now, but before this all kicked in, think back to, you know, how you're feeling before all this sort of lockdown situation happened. And even if you're watching this after, you know, things have kind of gone back to normal, have you found that there's been a huge shift to who you were, say, 10 years ago? And I can pretty well guarantee that there would be. You would have probably new groups of friends, new ways of relating to yourself and those around you. You probably have different tastes, music, clothes, food, all sorts of different things. And potentially even whole career changes, or like the people I know, they've changed their names. And it's about that little voice inside of us that's dying to be heard. And that's what was happening with the Hong Kong protest. It's kind of like the little voice against the big voice. You know, it's the little guy against the top-down approach. And that was happening at a very sort of worldwide level, but it's also happening within. And it wasn't just the Hong Kong protest. There were so many protests across the world last year, and you could see that kind of, it's the same sort of thing. It's the little guy fighting back against the controlling powers that be, and that's kind of like what was happening internally for us in a much smaller way. Now the thing with that is, if you are feeling any fear around, expressing that little voice, you have to try and remember, in terms of, say, the choir metaphor, I mean, yes, we can all, sing a particular note because we've trained to sing a particular note, but true music comes from when everyone sings their own unique note. And, it's that collective song then that is the most amazing thing. It's, it's no fun if everyone's just singing the same note. We want to be able to sing, all the different notes that are available to us. And yeah, you get to specialize in your area. Some people probably just do the soprano, other people do, other notes. But it's together that's when music happens, and it's not then just like a note that's sung. Now, the other way some of this would be appearing for you in your own life, as I mentioned before, like there's this sense of, potentially trying out new different things, changes in your lifestyle, that sort of stuff. And if you can think back to before we all had to get stuck inside, because I'm sure many of you are probably just now comfort food eating, which, is fine, but trying to go too hard at it. But you would have found that there's potentially you're, trying out new foods. You're potentially eating a little bit better. I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but it's about, you would have been trying to figure out what made you feel better, because I think in the last sort of 6 months, especially before all this virus stuff happened, we were kind of waking up to the fact that, hang on, the stuff that I've been doing for however long actually doesn't make me feel good anymore. And so you would have been starting to consider other options and experiment with, well, what actually does make you feel better? Because what's actually been happening is you've been starting to wake up, and you're starting to see how things have been holding you back for basically your whole life. There's been masks that you've kind of unconsciously started to wear. Maybe they've been, given to you and you didn't realize, and you've just been wearing layer upon layer of identities and masks, and it's not really who you are. And you're sort of waking up to that fact, and you're starting to kind of question what you've been told all of these years. And so part of what all of that is happening to us is, as we kind of waking up, we are shifting that fog. It's kind of like, you can even think of it as like a mental fog, but it's also been a fog, as in the choir metaphor was, it's been surrounding the planet for thousands of years, and now it's starting to shift, and it's allowing us to wake up. And that waking up process is allowing us to see things from a new perspective, and allows us to have a chance to explore new options, and to kind of be self-aware enough of, just because I've been taught to sing a particular note doesn't necessarily mean it's right for me anymore. I might want to go off and do dancing, or do, stage lights or something else. So it's not about judging yourself as well of, I've done XYZ all my life, I have to kind of stay doing that. It's not that at all. And using this downtime now with the virus is a great time to just really, evaluate where things are at for you. And do you really have to go back to how things were? I mean, there's so much opportunity now just to do a bit of a reset. And no one's saying you have to be great with your food and diet, even if you just, drinking a little bit more water than what you might otherwise be doing. That's a good first step. It's baby steps for everyone, and that's part of the collective beauty, is everyone's in a different place. We all have a different voice to contribute to the choir, and we all have different skill sets, and that's what makes this whole planet so amazing. So anyway, I hope that was interesting for you, and I found it interesting for myself, because I got this message through 6 months ago now, and just to see how things have kind of worked out, I'd say we are definitely at the place where the kerfuffle is happening, shall we say, in terms of that metaphor. And once that all settles down, and we kind of get to, because this is the thing, once everyone realizes, hey, what they're here for, and this is actually what I enjoy doing. I don't want to be the singer, I want to be the dancer, or the makeup artist. Once you kind of embrace that fact about you, things will settle down faster, and then we'll put on a great show. Anyway, that's enough from me today. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.